All right, good day, family. Welcome and happy Friday to you. Happy Friday to you. I hope you guys had a wonderful week. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to give people time to join in. If you're watching the recording, just know you're watching a recording of a live event. So we're just going to sit here and chill for just a couple of moments here. And we're going to get some people on board here. And then we're going to go ahead and get started, okay? Give us about a minute and a half, and then we'll get started. And again, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you guys had a good day. We're just giving people time to get in and give it about another right under a minute, and then we'll get started. All right, under 20 seconds, and then we'll get started. All right, thank you so much for joining us here on Samba Journeys News Network. We're going to be going over the news, some of the news items of the week, and talking about some of the things that kind of went down and how some of these things actually tie together and why we should be very concerned about it. So we're going to be touching on that today, and also hearing from you. So if you got anything, any topics that you would like for me to touch on during this broadcast, make it known. Put it in the comment section. Put it in the chat, okay? And then we'll see how we can swing it and get it all in here, okay? Well, again, thank you so much for tuning in. So glad that you guys are here. And we're going to go ahead and get started on this Funky Friday. All right? Hold on. Let me take one more drink here, and then we get started here. Hold on. I'm drinking this our coconut water because it's got bits of coconut in it and all that. So I'm trying to get through this, y'all. I'm almost finished. You can get that over on Sambatree, sambatree.com. All right, let's go. I think I'm done. Y'all, I didn't want y'all to hear me smacking my lips or anything like that here. So anyway, so glad to have you here. So like I already told you what we're going to be getting into today. So, so before we get started, make sure if you haven't done so already, make sure you check out our website, sambatree.com. All right. And this is our place of solutions. You know, when we're talking about how to deal with, you know, some of these, things that we deal with, on a health front, health and wellness. And so you can see this, of course, isn't the only thing we have here. So if you go to sambatree.com, you'll see that we have, all kinds of fruit drinks, natural drinks here. We have copper vessels. If you're putting that water and letting it sit in your copper vessel, the amount of benefits that you get, that your body gets just from drinking from a copper vessel is just simply amazing. We have, different types of herbs. We have avocado leaves for tea. Love avocado tea. It has that it has that caramel-y kind of taste to it, but it also has a whole bunch of benefits to it as well. And then, that's on the new arrivals page. And then we got all kinds of sea moss. We have turmeric 50/50 pepper. Now, 50/50 pepper, again, that's something that we came up with. 50% pepper, 50% black seed. And it just tastes just like pepper, but you're getting the benefit of black seed, the powerful benefit, I should say, of black seed. You're getting it all in that capsule along with turmeric. And of course, the pepper as well. We put it on literally everything in this house. And being able to get the benefit of black seed in our food is just simply amazing. We also have sea moss, bladderwrack, and burdock root capsules. That's right. All three of those things, we have been able to figure out how to put all three of those things in one capsule. So make sure you check that out as well. Along with all kinds of bitters, and we got all kinds of salts. We got all kinds of things here. Because again, we're focused on, getting our health together, and you get your health together, you get your wellness together, which also is attached to your brain, your mind, so you can work this stuff out as we're discussing this stuff. And so important. We have committed our lives for the most part to being able to provide these things for our people to, to share any knowledge or information that we have that we come across. We try to do it here from this platform here. We have a YouTube page, Samba Tree as well. So if you're not subscribed to that, make sure you subscribe to that as well. Okay. So again, the website is sambatree.com. And again, big shout out to everybody that's in the chat. So glad to have you guys here. Really appreciate it. So tonight, on tonight's docket, we are going to go over the following. We're going to go over the post that I posted earlier today. Just basically letting you know just the real deal of where we are, as, we want to call ourselves the black community, whatever, but just giving you the cold hard facts on that. We're going to go over that post again, just to make sure that people are getting it. And then that's going to be tied to some videos of just exactly what we're seeing that kind of, ties directly into, what I was talking about in that post. Let's see here. Let me see here. Yeah, I mean, everything else here is going to be tied directly to it. It's Ayanna and Congresswoman Crockett, is a clip of them just yelling and screaming. We're gonna I was watching someone else's channel earlier today. They were talking about the impact, and we talked about this like literally weeks ago, if not more, probably over a couple of months ago. The impact that if Trump wins, what's going to happen to the middle class in the DC area. And we're going to talk about that. Again, all of that's going to be tied to this post. And again, getting back to the central question, what should you be doing, during this time? Let's see what else I have here. That's it. We're just going to flow tonight. And like I said, again, if you have anything you would like for me to touch on during this broadcast, go ahead and drop it in the chat. And if we have time towards the end, we'll make sure we do it. But anyway, let me see real quick who we got here. We got Team Truth in the house. We got RJ in the house. KM. We got Lynn in the house, and others are there as well. And I'm just saying hey to you. So thank you so much for joining. So let's go ahead and get started, and let's get into it. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about it. So first things first, let's get to this post here. And this is stuff that I've already kind of talked about on other videos. And, we're just going to go over it again. I just said, what? I woke up today. I said, let me just go ahead and put this under one post. Maybe people will read it. I don't know. Maybe they'll watch it. Maybe they'll read it. We'll see what happens. But I decided to put all this under one post. So anyway, it goes on. It says, the hard facts most of our people do not want to face. And so I broke it down in different sections here. So median income. Now, these numbers are going to vary. This was based on the 2019 numbers. So they're going to, going to vary. Even if you pull up 2019, for example, where it says white Americans on this chart, it's 69,000. But if you go and pull it up in another chart, it will actually come up to like 76. So, some of these numbers will vary a little bit. But what is consistent, though, is, where Black Americans will fit into this equation here. Okay. So anyway, median income. Well, let's see what I wrote here. I said, as you can see from this chart, there are many groups who immigrate to this country who have the highest median incomes. And before someone cooks up another conspiracy theory, these are immigrants who have entered into the country legally. This has nothing to do with the drive to limit illegal immigration, because you're always going to have someone saying, see, this is why they're trying to get rid of the immigrants in this country. No, they're trying to get rid of the illegal ones. All right. They're trying to slow this thing down. All right. What is the one group that has been left off this chart? Well, you've noticed already, it's Black Americans. Well, let's look at our numbers. In 2019, the median household income of Black Americans was $45,438. According to the data from the U.S. Census Bureau, so we are lower than them. We're lower than white folks. But we're going to keep on going because there's a reason why I'm pointing that out. So you got that. Okay. So our median income. All right. Now you may say, well, my income was higher than that. Okay, good for you. But we're talking about the median income. All right. Number two, birth replacement. We talked about that, didn't we, in our video? What should the focus for the Black American community be in 2025? All right. We talked all about that in greater detail, but we just kind of go through it real quick here. With prominent Black Americans in politics and other high positions of authority, pushing and defending issues like abortion and LGBTQ, issues that inherently do not contribute to population growth. We are pushing the gas pedal to our own population decline. We are essentially following white Americans in their own population decline. Meanwhile, Africans, followed by Hispanics, are leading the way with population growth. And then in the image here, I just created a chart for it. It's right here. So you can kind of see right here. So Niger, I think that's how you post it. Their replacement rate is like almost 7%. Now, I keep wanting to say percent. 7 children per woman. That's how high it is. Whoa. 7 children per child. All right. And then you can kind of expand that a little bit, because all throughout the continent of Africa, you're going to find that there's other, I think in that video we talked about Angola, we talked about it was some Kenya, there was a few other. I think the lowest per child per woman rate was like 3 point something per children per woman. But Africa is the future as far as how the rest of the world is going to look like in the centuries to come. It is. When you look at Europe, for example, Europe, all these Africans and people from what we call the Middle East are all being pushed up there. Listen, and then at the same time, you have Europeans, who are pushing these, LGBT stuff. They're pushing abortion on their own. It's a very weird thing. Why would you push the elimination of your own population? It's a very interesting thing. That's one of those things I was telling Nicole. I said, it just has me scratching my head on that one. But the fact of the matter is that there is a true browning that is happening throughout Europe, and here in the United States. What I will say is this: these fertility rates. Let me just bring this back. Let me just bring myself back on the screen here. These fertility rates. What's going to happen is at this rate, because we're just going down. I forgot. I think ours was like what is recommended is 2.1 children per woman. That's what's recommended for white Americans. I'm just doing all this from memory. I believe it's 1 they're at 1.8, I think. And then we're at 1.9. It's somewhere, or I may have got that reverse, but we're heading in the opposite direction. Meanwhile, people coming from Africa who, a lot of these people groups, and I'm just speaking Africa, but also you got South America, a lot of the Hispanic population. These are cultures that are known to have large families. That's what they're all about, is having large families. And they're coming over, and what's going to happen at this current trajectory that we're on right now is that I could see maybe a generation or so from now, what we know today as Black American culture will not be Black American culture. Will there be Black people still here? Yes, there will be Black people still here, but those Black people, by and large, are going to be heavily intermixed with people from the continent, Africans. And so what's going to end up happening is that Africans are going to, by default, going to be the ones that's going to take credit for what we call today Black American culture. That's the trajectory that we're on. You may not like that. That may not fit right with you. You may hate that I'm saying this, but we're just looking at the numbers here. Okay, so what we know today, so that's what's going to happen. So what we know just based off of just that, we ain't finished yet, is that because that's what's happening right now. Well, you look at the Hollywood movies, for example, there's been this whole big thing about why is it that all of these movies, they can't seem to find a Black American to play a Black American role. All these actors and actresses, why is it that they're always from Africa? Well, they're trying to tell you that you're being replaced. It's happening now. It is happening right now. And they're letting you know. Do you remember the end of that movie 2012? You remember when it was 2012 was basically like this, the world is ending and all this stuff, and it was a big flood that's happening and all this other stuff, right? So all these different nations, they got into their ships, and guess where they headed to? Africa. That was the last scene in that film. They were all heading to Africa. These people are telling you what the future is. Okay? The future is, in fact, Africa. It is. Like it or not, it is. And so in this country today, they have this way of just pushing all these people together, and say, okay, you're a Black person, right? But as well as I know, well, there are levels to that. I may be a Black American as in, my ancestors go to Africa, right? But my culture, the culture that we built here, is one that's American based, right? So I can say I'm American, right? And there's a lot of things that we've done here. But then you also got other people that are coming from the Caribbean. You got people coming from the continent and other dark-skinned folks, the Kamala Harrises of the world, that are coming in and also saying, hey, we're Black too. So hit the fast forward button and play this thing all the way out. What's going to end up happening is, like I said, give it about a generation or so, is that when someone says Black American culture and they're pointing, or Black American community, and they're pointing to a group of people, who they will be pointing to will more than likely be people who were not born here. Well, who are a lot more recent, I should say. You understand what I'm saying? Do a lot more recent to this land. So that's where we're heading, just based off of just those numbers there. Okay. As long as we keep on pushing these things like the LGBT thing, which, like I said, again, is inherently, it's not conducive for growth. You're not growing a population when two men get together. You're not growing a population when two women get together. It's not happening. Same thing with, when you're aborting your children. It's the same thing. You're not growing your population. And that's why you got 92%. This will go down in the annals of history. 92% of women, keep in mind, black women who give birth. 92% of black women who voted for a policy or voted for policies to basically end or limit the growth of the black community. I don't know why people don't think these things all the way through, But this is what it is. There's people are so enamored with wanting to have a brown face up there, but don't realize that, wait a minute now, let me think this out. If she's pushing this and this, that means that my people ain't gonna grow. I don't understand why they're so hard. I really don't. And so anyway, so that's that. Let's move on to the next thing that I was talking about down here. Let's see. Oh, reading levels. Okay, so we're just looking at fourth grade reading levels. All the complaining for decades we have done over how the government has underfunded public schools has gotten us where on this issue? Absolutely nowhere. And while we can and should acknowledge the outlier cases, we still must look at all the facts without coming up with more excuses. Ultimately, this falls on us. Here's a summary of the latest fourth grade reading levels of the United States by racial and ethnic groups based on 2022 National Assessment Educational Progress. All right. Asian students highest performance with the average score of 241. 82% performed at or above basic level, and 24% were at the advanced level, extremely high. White students, average score was 226, so just a little bit under. Performed at or above the basic level with 11%. All right, so again, under Asian. At the advanced level, all right, two or more races. Average score of 222 with 67% performing at or above the basic level. And it's probably not, I guess the reason why they have, there's nothing here as far as advanced level is this really not, can you really measure it? It's so minuscule. I think it's on the chart though. Hispanic students, average score of 204, 204% performed at or above the basic level. I'm keeping my eye on my phone here because I'm also looking at Bitcoin. I don't know about y'all, but Bitcoin has been teasing at 100,000. It's very close to it, but I'm telling you that the coin season, this is crypto coin season, man. People are getting it. I'm telling you, this round has been really something. Anyway, let me get back. Black students, average score of 198. Performed at or above basic level. American, and then, I'll bring up the chart here. American Indian, Alaskan Native students, average score 198, similar to black students. Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander students, average score of 206 with 50% at or above basic level. And I have it here. It's right here. This is it right here. All right, so Hispanic, black here. So yeah, it's like 2%. For black. Hispanic is at 4%, 3%. Now, what does that mean? What does all that mean? Take special note of advanced reading levels for each group, which it was, which as expected would be much smaller than the percentage that is reading above basic. For Black Americans, it is almost non-existent. This is very alarming because it shows just how much our shrinking population will have to rely on other groups who are excelling in advanced studies. This is extremely important. And as the broadcast comes along here this evening, you're going to see it play out. You're going to see this play out. All right. Why this is extremely important. Because these people, these children at this age, they're on a trajectory where they're going to be the inventors. They're going to be the ones that are going to, that more than likely all these other groups are going to be working for them. They're going to be the developers. They're going to be the ones that are moving society at large forward because their numbers are growing, right? And also, their numbers are growing. Reading levels are up, right? So everything's up for them. Whereas with Black Americans, we're so married to white people and what they're doing, they're going off the cliff and we're like, wait for us. That's what's happening. And what did I have here? Okay, that's what I got. All right, and finally, why religion is bad for us. As you can see from this illustration, and this is what I put here, because you got people all on social media that they just, this is all they do. This is all they put out. Every time I turn around, oh, Yah is destroying our enemies. Oh, he's coming after these white people, y'all. The white people, they're dying off. Whoa, he's doing it, y'all. He's doing it. He's killing off these people. Oh, it's their time. Their time is up. This thing is about to flip, and we about to be on the top, and they're going to be on the bottom and all that. Blah, blah, blah. I just went through and showed you the facts. Yeah, white people are, their numbers are going down, but guess what? You in the same truck as they are. You in the passenger seat. Meanwhile, these other people on the come up. So I said final thing. I said why religion is bad for us. As you can see from this illustration, the religious amongst us keep us focused on one day and soon and very soon and pending judgment on a white man and everyone else. Let's escape to Africa. That's the big thing right now. Mindset as a way of avoiding pointing out how our demographic is the one that's dying out. When you point this out, the response is, well, according to the Bible, 2/3 ain't going to make it. Well, I guess that rules out black Americans based on these facts, because based on these facts here, like I said, we're in the passenger seat. The plan that religion offers that addresses any of this is simple. Wait until you die and find out. Until then, there's very little hope for you on this plane. Even though these numbers are very dire for us as black Americans, there are many ways individually we have been and continue to exceed these norms. So these numbers are very bad. I mean, I'm not going to play around with it. But it doesn't mean that you, the one that's listening to me right now, it doesn't mean that you are directly tied to this. In other words, there are decisions and things that you can do right now that can overcome that. You can. But to have this mindset believing that somehow in total, that all of black folks are all going to just jump together and we all going to come together and we all going to rise up, you got to stop thinking that way. It doesn't mean that I don't believe in love and want to see black people make it. It's not that at all. I'm just being honest. I'm being honest with you. There are a lot of our folks who don't want to do this. They don't want to put in the hard work. They don't want to sit down and listen to this. They don't. It's not entertaining. But for you, you have an opportunity right now. If you're still breathing and you can still hear what I'm telling you, you have an opportunity right now to make things to exceed and excel and go beyond the median. You do. And there are many black folks who have been doing it and continue to do it. The question is, are you willing to pay the price to do that? The bigger problem that I face is when it's time to discuss how to fix what needs to be fixed. There is always very little interest on social media. The biggest cost behind these solutions isn't money, it's commitment and the willingness to be honest with ourselves. And, I take a jog through, social media a whole lot just to see what's cracking, what's going on, what people are talking about and all this other stuff. And it never fails. As long as we are talking about things that are bad, as long as we're just talking about things that just, why these folk are this and why these folk are that, and these people are racist, and Trump, he don't like us and he gonna kill us, and as long as we're talking about all that stuff, you will always do extremely well, particularly on YouTube. You'll do very well. As long as you're calling judgment on somebody, you're going to do well. As long as you're spreading fear and telling black people that they're going to die, or they're going, that there's no hope, then you're going to do very well on YouTube. But the moment you sit down and say, okay, let's talk about mental illness. Let's talk about how we can reverse this thing. Let's get into this deeper stuff, abuse. Let's talk about that and the impact that abuse can have on the brain psychologically. Let's talk about how we can improve our health, and the impact that some of these ingredients in the food that they're putting in these foods that we're taking, the impact it has on your brain, the impact it has on your emotions. And that everything isn't just external. You got a lot of things that are internal, and it starts with the knife and the fork, or the fork and the spoon, whatever you use to eat. So a lot of that has to do with that, but there's other things too. Let's talk about how we need to grow a backbone and start drawing a line to protect our peace, even if it means people in our own family. Let's talk about that, and let's walk through step by step how we need to do that. Well, nobody want to hear that. We want to hear about the argument. Did you get a video about it? Did you have a video about him showing that he got slapped? That is what sells on these YouTube streets. It does. But I told Nicole, I said, you know what? I'm at the point right now, I'm just going to do whatever. I'm just going to talk, when I say whatever, I mean, I was actually thinking about getting one of them inflatable kayaks. And I said, man, now that it's cooler, man, I'm going to get out here and start doing videos as I'm going down the river or on the lake or whatever. I'm going to start doing stuff like that. And just focus, and just relax. Like tomorrow I'm going out, I'm gonna try to get up early, bring my cameras and stuff, and just do a bunch of nature photography and videography and stuff like that. I'm gonna focus on that. I mean, I'll talk about some of this other stuff, but I'm gonna focus on that. Why? Because it makes me feel good and it helps me to move forward in my mind and in life. If I sit up here all day and worrying about what Democrats or Republicans are saying, I'll never get anywhere. You understand what I'm saying? So yeah, that's kind of the direction I'm heading towards, just in my own life, and yeah, that's what I'm looking at. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, and in the last paragraph, I said, at this point, the disappearance of what we know today as Black American culture is imminent. Let me say that again. The disappearance of what we know today as Black American culture is imminent. In other words, what we know today as Black American culture is coming to an end. And that's a huge pause. It is. Based on everything, just a few things I just gave you right now, it's coming to an end. I was telling Nicole, I'm pointing out, I don't know if some of y'all have seen this on TikTok. There's as you know, China has been all over Africa because their birth rate is like 1.09. So they already know, give it a generation or two, Chinese are going to be gone. So why do you think the Chinese are in Africa right now? And so I was on TikTok and I saw like these, I don't know what country it was. I don't even know. It was one of these countries in Africa. These Chinese, when I say they had a karate or a martial arts school, it wasn't a martial arts school like the one you see in a strip mall next to the old Kmart and then next to the, I don't know, the Chinese food store or whatever, that's next to the whatever. No, the laundromat. No. I ain't talking about that. These Chinese are going over there and building whole temples, like Chinese temples, where they go and they learn how to do all these different types of martial arts. And they got Africans that they're training on this stuff. And I'm sitting up here scratching my head like, I thought this stuff was like sacred stuff. I thought that was like your stuff. Why y'all training them? But then it dawned on me once I started looking at this, I was like, hold on for a second. Hold on for a second here. Hey, Regina, thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much. They went to sambatree.com. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. And yeah, we can't wait to get it into your beautiful brown hands. But anyway, so I'm sitting up here scratching my head. I'm like, why are they building these like Shaolin temples and stuff over there in Africa? They're doing it. And they're teaching these young men how to do it because they understand that, listen, we're dying out. You guys are the Trojan horse here. So you're the time machine. So as you guys are on the come up, make sure you don't forget this and this and this and this part of our culture. Make sure you bake that in. We're dying out. We're done. So they know what the deal is. They understand what's happening here. They understand that it's too late for them. And given time, they're going to be gone. So that's one of the many reasons why they're in Africa right now. They're teaching Africa. They're starting to pass down some of their stuff right now because they know these people, they know they're the ones that are going to be around, you know? And so anyway, let me just finish up with this paragraph here. I said, at this point, the disappearance of what we know today as Black American culture is imminent. We can cross our fingers and believe all we want. But if we are not willing to put in the much needed work now, even the smallest pieces of our culture will be completely forgotten. How do we preserve a culture when that culture is literally a sinking ship? Well, this is one of the many hard conversations I was talking about that we don't want to face. We got to face the facts. This is what it is. And what religion does, it says, oh, honey, don't say that. Don't say that. See, you ain't got enough faith. You got to believe that the Most High God, he going to come down and he going to save us from all of this. And, you know, you're going to have to believe and trust, honey, and all this stuff and get you focused on it. I'm showing you the numbers. And the trajectory is continuing in that same direction. And give it about a generation or two, like I said again, what we know today as Black American culture, it is not going to be. I'm not saying that Black people will not be around, because there will be a lot of Black people still around. In fact, the numbers will be going even higher. But all of this, you know, we FBA and we ADOS, all of that is going to go bye-bye. It is. All right. So I just wanted to, I wrote that, and just, you know, you could take the time and really process that, because that's, you know, and some of you, you may be seeing some of this right now. If your children do not get married, for some of you, there goes your bloodline, and you're already seeing it now. You know, so it's what it is. So anyway, let's go here to the next thing here. What did I have on here? Let's see here. Oh, let me look at what he's saying here. He said maybe certain aspects of our current Black culture should die off. Yeah, I agree. It's a system like any other and must be examined if we are to be honest about it. True. Certain aspects, yeah, do need to die off. And I think the certain aspects that are bad will die off quicker. They'll be the first to die off. But all in all, what I'm saying is what we know today as just Black culture in total is not going to exist. It's going to look much, much different. And it's going to be a conglomeration of African influence and also Hispanic too, as you know, because like all other cultures, there's a lot of blending and stuff that goes on. So it's just going to continue, you know, but that's a very good point. Let's see here. So yeah, let me pull up this video here. And this is some of the stuff that I'm talking about, you know, when people are talking about how we need to have Black representation. But see, if your Black representation is doing this kind of stuff that I'm about to pull up, then they are doing nothing but accelerating, you know, this whole process here. Let me see. As soon as I can pull this up here. This is, oh, here it is. This is in LA, I believe, right? This is in LA. And this gentleman here, Black man, and he is pushing for his city to protect the illegal immigrants. All right. So here, let's take a look at this video here. Let's get that up here.
Colleagues, today I rise to voice my strong support, along with you, for this ordinance. As a representative of one of the largest migrant communities in the city, ensuring the safety and well-being of my constituents is a top priority. Given the re-election of Donald Trump and the consistent hate speech towards undocumented people and mixed status families, I can't think of a more pressing issue than this one today. Sanctuary cities are not just a legal framework, but they represent a moral commitment to upholding human dignity, protecting families, and ensuring that everyone, regardless of their immigrating status, can live without fear. Establishing this ordinance will allow us to ensure that crimes do not go unreported from fear of deportation. It will permit us to build trust between mixed status families and law enforcement, and it will help keep communities intact. Now is the time to make our message loud and clear. Trump has had his say, but now it's our turn to respond with decisive action and full force of law on our side. The City of Angels must live up to its name. We must be angels to our undocumented neighbors, guaranteeing that they can live with stability and without the constant threat of deportation. By fostering opportunity and inclusion, we empower all of our neighbors to contribute fully to the strength and success of our communities for generations to come. Colleagues, I urge an aye vote on this ordinance.
I just, again, this is what the point I brought up, I think the last time we were talking about this. If I were to move to Mexico or, Mexico City, for example, they would not be caping for me like this. They would not be telling me that, that you're Mexican and, and we're going to live up the meaning and who we are as Mexicans. We're going to protect you automatically, like that automatically comes. No, when I went to Mexico, they were nice and all that stuff, but it was very clear that I wasn't a Mexican, and they're going to make sure that, I have a safe visit there and all that stuff, but that's it. But as far as automatically bringing me saying that I'm a citizen by default, simply because I'm there, no, they're not going to do that. And I don't expect them to do that. So for this black man, along with other black individuals that are that are elected officials, they're doing this all over the country. Remember, and I told you, everyone's focused on the presidential election, but not a lot of, I'm trying to tell people, I said, listen, you need to focus on the local, right? Because these are the type of clowns that are getting in on the local while you sitting there talking about, I ain't vote for nobody. Well, there you go. So now for some of you who say you ain't vote for nobody, guess what? You're going to have a whole lot of visitors in your neighborhood pretty soon, and you can't get mad at anybody but yourself because you had the chance to make a difference. But I'm just saying, that's how it works, okay? You don't want to vote, that's fine. But you also got the consequences that come with that. So, but this is what's happening all over the country, both on the local level, city councils. You got cities all over. What's it? The mayor of Denver. I was reading part of his statement. He said, listen, ICE better not come up in here. Now, mind you, Denver was just dealing with Venezuelan gang members. They were just dealing with Venezuelan gangs that were allegedly taking over apartment complexes. And here you got the mayor with all of that saying, well, hey, I don't care about any of that. We are going to protect them. That's what they're saying. I was like, wow, this is really something. And that's what they're doing right now. And so now so you got city after city after city after city after city that are right now committing to protect people that have come into this country illegally. And so, but here's the thing that I want you to make sure you understand this. These cities, it's funny how a lot of people who are the loudest about, we got to protect the illegals. We got to protect them. A lot of these people that are saying this, they don't live in the areas where the illegals are going. You ever thought of that? They don't live there. They're going to make sure they don't live in those areas. We got to protect the illegals. We got to make sure that the bathrooms, are open for everybody. So if a man wants to go in with a dress and he wants to go into the women's bathroom, you doggone right. We're going to yell and we're going to protect that too. His right, her right. Sure. However you want to call it. We're going to protect their right too. But honey, you go into their neck of the woods and where they live, you daggone right. Male bathroom and female bathroom. They don't tolerate that, but they want you to accept that. They want you to embrace that. The loudest people that are out here that are pushing these policies, I guarantee you, they got it already built in where they're not living in that, but they want you to push this stuff. And we're going to get into that. So this is our politician number one here that we're going to talk to. We're mentioning, about this. And then there's two others that we're going to get to just in a moment here. But yeah, it's people that push these policies, you are literally eliminating yourself. You are. And to think that, again, this whole thing, like I saw today, they were like, Biden got some more judges confirmed. Look at all these black judges he's getting confirmed. Oh, I knew Biden was for us and all this stuff. Just because you got a black judge, and there was a judge in New York. I don't know if it was a federal judge. I told y'all about this story, where it was a black man who was making, he had a 3D printer, and he was making guns. I mean, he was just a hobbyist. He wasn't like doing something where he was like working with criminals or anything like that. And he was just doing that. And somehow word got out. Police came, arrested him, confiscated stuff. He's in Rikers Island. And the judge, a black judge, said that the Second Amendment don't exist in my courtroom. She told a black man that. But we just like, oh, look at all the black women we got. Look at all the black men we got up here. Y'all gonna have to get off of that. You're gonna have to get off of that. You're gonna have to get off of that. I'm telling you. Maybe the previous generation, they were just so proud to see, I'm just so proud to see a black face up there or whatever. But now we're starting to see that just because these black faces are in high places, it doesn't mean that they are pushing for you, okay? Remember the analogy I gave the other day about this? Well, that was on long form history. If I were to buy, let's say, a Hershey's chocolate company, right? If I bought the Hershey's chocolate company and I have, which means I'm running all of their system, right? I can't get mad the following day and say, okay, I'm looking at this production line. Where are all the cars at? I bought this thing so y'all can make cars. They're going to say, no, the system is designed to make candies. It ain't designed to make cars. So I could say, then I'll say, you know what? I'm going to fire all y'all because y'all ain't listening to me. I'm going to fire all y'all. Okay, fire everybody. Bring in some new people. So I go on LinkedIn and bring up a whole bunch of new people. Guess what they're going to do? They're going to follow the system. So I get up the next day. Where are all my cars at? They're going to say the same thing. Hey, the system says we're supposed to be making this, candies. Doesn't say anything on here about cars. You didn't give us any instruction how to do that. Well, likewise, black folks, this is how we see the government. We think that the government somehow it's the system is designed to benefit and to help you. It was never designed for that. It was never designed for that. And we think just because you got a whole bunch of black faces in there that somehow it's going to produce love and compassion and they're going to build you. No, it's not designed for that. And you're going to see in a moment here. So anyway, let me move on to this next thing here. This was Stacey Abrams. Okay, so we're just taking a quick jump here. Stacey Abrams, she has a podcast and she was giving her take on Project 2025. I've already explained it. I have videos on Project 2025 explaining it in basic forms. Project 2025 is nothing more than one bureaucracy coming in to take over another bureaucracy. That's all it is. So the bureaucracy that we've had in place for all of these years, the same one that we've been complaining about all of this time, right? Now that you got Trump in the game coming into office, guess what they're going to do? Well, we're going to push that aside, and now we got our own bureaucracy that's coming in. I mean, that's really all it is. It's like a power struggle kind of thing. But the system is still in place at the end of the day. The system is still going to function as a system. And so one of the things that they're saying, I'm talking about, Trump with his, Project 2025 stuff, is they're saying that with Elon Musk and all them, they're saying, listen, we're going to go through the entire government and our job, we're going to cut down a lot of this extra fat that's in the system because there's just so much of it here. There's so many extra projects and stuff. We need to cut all this stuff down. Now, any fair-minded, decent-minded, whatever, practical person would hear that and say, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. You'll be like, yeah, that should happen. After all, as citizens, we got to do it all the time. When that check gets smaller and smaller every month, right? We got to cut things out. Well, the government should be leading the way in doing that, right? So, I mean, I don't see a problem with that, right? So one of the things they're looking at is SNAP. Okay, that's one of these programs that help feed people who are needy, right? And so I want you to hear first how she tables this, right? How she frames this. And then we're going to go right to Project 2025 and we're going to actually read what it says. Okay, so let's take a listen to what she's saying and how she's framing this. And then we'll go to the project itself. All right, so let's take a listen here and let's go.
I'm your host, Stacey Abrams. In the before time, pre-election, I had the amazing chance to speak with renowned chef and health advocate Tom Colicchio about our country's struggles with poverty and food insecurity. However, like so much of what we're focused on, this topic is now more pressing than ever, and our conversation seems a bit prescient. Why? Because the most significant government programs that lift people out of poverty, that provide access to assistance to those who have a hard time putting food on the table, that can help bridge that gap for nutritional access, those programs are being handled right now at the federal level by the United States Department of Agriculture, also known as the USDA. Now, while Trump has not announced who he intends to appoint as his agriculture secretary, Project 2025 has told us what he intends to do. They outline in grave detail the devastating proposals to programs that would cut back eligibility for access to food. It would weaken regulations on baby formula. They would limit access to low-cost lunches for school children, and that's just the beginning. But knowing what their targets are means that we can get ready to protect, defend, and insist that our elected leaders take care of their people. Because hunger doesn't care about your age, your race, your region, or who you voted for. So we're going to talk to Tom about how he lobbied.
All right. So you heard how she framed this, right? So what we're going to do, like we always do here on this platform, we're going to go right to the source. Okay. We want to see what Project 2025, what it's actually saying on there. Okay. So here's the page right here. I'm going to bring it up on the screen here. This is one of the pages where they're talking about it, what the program and, this program and what they're going to, how they're looking at it and how they are going to address it. Right. So here we go here. It's right here. Administration for Children and Families, ACF. TANF. The Temporary Assistance for Needy Families program is a federal block grant that gives states significant flexibility to fund a broad array of programs aimed at helping low-income families break the cycle of poverty and achieve economic self-sufficiency. States use TANF to fund monthly cash assistance payments to low-income families with children, as well as a wide range of services that include work activities, work support, and supportive services, child care administration and systems, tax credit, pre-K, Head Start, child welfare, and other services. The TANF program serves 1.8 million individuals. Since 1996, when the program was reformed, federal TANF outlays have been $16.5 billion. The state match is $14.9 billion, bringing the total state and federal TANF investment to $31.4 billion. The TANF statute requires that states engage 50% of single parent families in work for at least 30 hours a week. All right. 20 hours a week for single parents with children under the age of 6. Through those states have the option to waive the requirement for families with children under the age of 6, and most do. So what they're saying is that there's a baseline requirement that was established that, listen, you can take part of this program, but you're going to have to work. And this is the work requirement. And we're also going to reflect that, hey, listen, if you got children at a certain age, we'll reduce that number. So instead of you having to work 30, we'll just say 20. All right. And so that's the baseline federal requirement. All right. And it says states also have a 90% work requirements for 2-parent families to engage in work for 35 hours per week. Because of the quote unquote caseload reduction credit, states work engagement targets are reduced if their assistant caseloads have fallen since 2005. As a result, 21 states have a work engagement target of 0% in 2017. Generally, states apply their work requirement only to beneficiaries receiving basic assistance, who account for 22.3% of TANF outlays. The Trump administration proposed a supplemental nutrition assistance program, SNAP, to rule the increased program integrity and to reduce fraud, waste, and abuse. That would have prevented an individual from qualifying from SNAP simply because he or she received a pamphlet from TANF program. This rule defined non-cash benefits as those that are worth at least $50 a month and received for at least 6 months. The tenets of this rule should be applied to the TANF program as well. This definitional change would apply to TANF work requirements to any non-cash benefit worth $50 a month and received for 6 consecutive months. And then it goes on, it says, to increase transparency, HHS should clarify how states in their quarterly and annual reports ought to track and audit the outcomes from how they spend TANF funds to meet TANF programs for statutory purposes. And then this last one. Additionally, TANF priorities are not implemented in an equally weighted way. Marriage, healthy family formation, and delaying sex to prevent pregnancy are virtually ignored in terms of priorities. Yet these goals can reverse the cycle of poverty in meaningful ways. CMS should require explicit measurements of these goals. Now you read that, you listened to that, and you heard what she said. Now she tried to frame it as, oh, they're going to be snatching bottles out of babies' hands and, all this other stuff, and they're just going to just cut stuff out. No, they're saying, listen, we need to loop back and we need to look at these work requirements, because we can't just keep handing out money to folk if they ain't working. Now, I agree with that. I don't see a problem with that. What's the problem with that? And if you're not working and your mindset is, shoot, my check gonna come in or whatever, that does not foster breaking the cycle of poverty, as she suggested. That's not gonna help somebody. That's not gonna motivate someone to get out of poverty. It's gonna motivate them to stay in it. That's how this is set up. And so a lot of these states, they're just like, whatever. And so now when you're bringing in these illegals in here, it's just exacerbating the problem. And let's be clear, I'm not saying illegals just come here and sit and don't do anything. You got people that come in here legally that do work, and they are hustling, they're doing their things. Trust me, I see a lot of it, especially out here. But you also got a percentage that come in and like, hey, listen, this is better hookup than when I got back at home. So what Trump administration, at least what they're proposing based in that, right, what I just read to you, is now we need to circle back and we need to tighten this thing up. We can't just be handing money and throwing money out at people if they are not working. And I don't see a problem with that. I don't know why that's such an issue. Get your behind up and work. And it's such a minimum thing they're asking you to do. You understand what I'm saying? It's just what it is. Listen, I'm talking from experience, okay? I've been there. I had to stand in those lines to get our benefit while my wife and I were cleaning toilets and all that stuff. We had to find something. Clean toilets on one day, and then I'm delivering newspapers on the other day. I'm hustling. Had to make it work. I got all this experience. I couldn't find a job, but I said, you know what? I'm not going to sit up here and be like, shoot, they won't hire me because I'm black. Okay, bump that. Okay, whatever the reason may be, so be it. But I got to make something work. And that's how most people with a mind, that's how they work. You got to make something happen. But never once did I have this mindset like, shoot, man, these checks looking pretty good, man. Let me sit up here. No, I was trying to get my behind off of it because I was like, oh, no. That's the last thing I'm going to do. No. I didn't want that. And so that's what he's saying. I mean, I don't see a problem with that, but you see how they're trying to posture it, right? All right, so I think the next thing I should show you then, and then we'll get to the other ones. Sorry. Is someone was talking about this earlier. Let me see if I can find it. Now I can't find the video. Hold on, it'll come up. Hold on. Oh yeah, that's right, because it's all the way up here. Okay, hold on. It is right. It's here. Okay, I got it. Okay, so I already told you guys. I said, listen, all of this heat that you're hearing, this is before the elections, particularly from black people in the DC area, Maryland area, that that are pro Kamala and we got to vote for Democrats. We got to vote for Democrats. We got to vote for Democrats. You're hearing that a lot from people who are federal workers. In other words, they somehow, some way, they are getting their money. They are connected to the federal government. And when you look at the DC area, most of the federal government within the DC, Maryland area and Northern Virginia area, you have a significant number of black people who depend on the federal government, right? So let's take a look at this story here, okay? Because they're going to talk about, this whole thing and everything we talked about up to this, what we talked about in this particular segment here. So let me pull this up here for you, and let's take a listen here. So let me get this up on the screen, and let me pull it up for you. 1 second. All right, here we go. And welcome to everybody that's joining us. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Take a listen.
Heard of the conservative plan known as Project 2025.
Yes, this guidebook has been published every 4 years since President Ronald Reagan by the right-wing think tank, the Heritage Foundation. Now, we're talking about this tonight because it proposes some sweeping changes to the federal government, a key issue with the upcoming presidential election.
Civil rights groups from the NAACP to the ACLU have spoken out against the proposal, a move they warn will disproportionately affect African Americans.
Investigative reporter Tracy Wilkins explains why it could have an even greater impact on black people and the economy in our region here. Tracy?
Yeah, well, as you both know, the nation's largest population of wealthy black people live in our region, especially in majority black Maryland counties like Prince George's and Charles. Many of our strong middle and upper middle class black families were built around the federal workforce. It's the region's largest employer. So we asked experts on both sides.
And that's the problem. That's the problem. When you're middle class, okay, go back to what I was saying now. Remember what I was saying, reading earlier in my post. Your middle class, think about this. Your entire middle class is centered on the federal government. I want you to make sure you understand what she just said. Your middle class of African or black Americans, African Americans, whatever. A lot of the reason why they're middle class in the first place in many aspects is because they got federal jobs. You can't say that about all these other groups. These other groups, they're going into the private sector, they're going to or they're building their own businesses and all that. Black Americans, our middle class is centered mostly or largely on federal jobs. All right, let's just let her talk.
It's a Project 2025, how dismantling it would impact the black middle class that has heavily relied on it.
2 cups of sugar.
When Michigan native Ashaki Robinson moved to Bowie, Maryland, she could hardly believe all of the concentrated black wealth around her.
Not just middle class, but rich black people.
Like many in her community, Robinson is a federal worker. She's a social science analyst for the Department of Housing and Urban Development and is speaking as a union representative.
You could be making a lot of money with your doctorate. There are a lot of things that you could be doing. And you're working in the federal government. Why?
Very few people are lucky enough to actually have a job that has meaning. And I'm one of those people that do it, and a lot of people that work for the federal government are.
HUD's mission is to ensure fair, safe, and affordable housing for all Americans. Tucked inside the 900-plus page Project 2025 document, former HUD Secretary Ben Carson calls for putting political appointees in top positions and scaling back affordable housing. The document also wants former President Trump's Schedule F executive order that was reversed by President Biden to be reinstated. It would strip job protections from career officials and policy roles, make it easier to fire civil servants, and requires loyalty to the president.
People shouldn't have to sell their souls to do a job.
Prior to the adoption of these civil service rules, people were appointed, and when elections changed, they lost their jobs.
Horace Cooper is chairman of Project 21, a program for Black conservatives at the National Center for Public Policy Research. It supports Project 2025. He says bringing back Schedule F will make Trump more effective if elected, even if it means some workers losing jobs.
I watched in the first Trump term, seeing how many government employees announced that they did not agree with the priorities of this administration and stymied them as a consequence.
ProPublica, a nonprofit news agency, was first to expose and publish Project.
Sorry, and what I was going to say is, Trump has to come in. Now, again, I did not vote for him. I did not vote for Kamala. So, so I'm not speaking as a pro-Trump person or anything like that. We're just right there. We're just looking right at the facts here. And one of the things I said is, if Trump is coming in hot like this, he has to. I mean, in terms of, you got to go in and start getting rid of folks, because these people that are there, because they were so angry with him being elected, do you think they're just going to comply and go along with it? No, they're going to find any and all ways to stymie and to slow things down and all that. So you can't think that way. You understand what I'm saying? You can't be, well, okay, now. No, they're not going to do that. So, I mean, this what you got to do. This what comes with it. This is politics. This is how it works. I mean, And so anyway, let's continue.
2025 training videos that explained how the playbook would work, including the replacement of federal workers.
Imagine what would happen if almost all federal employees opposed a certain president.
The Heritage Foundation declined the I-Team's request for an interview, even though many former Trump officials helped craft the plan, and it praises his past administration dozens of times. The former president has distanced himself.
I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it.
That hasn't washed away concerns for unionized federal workers like Alicia Saunders, a mom of 3 who works at the Department of Education. Project 2025 calls for the department to be dismantled.
What's going to happen to my household? What's going to happen to my paycheck? What's going to happen to my career?
Many in Saunders' family also work for the federal government, including her parents and siblings.
Has this been stressful for you?
Very, very. It's constant conversation.
In 2000.
So you're talking oh my God. Oh my goodness. Hold on. Let me put this up here. So you're talking generational black wealth is centered on the federal government. Do you not see a problem with this? Not, oh, look at the businesses that we built, or, how much I put into this company or whatever. No, the federal government. Generational. The same federal government that you say is your oppressor. Generational. This is generational family wealth that's resting on the shoulders of the federal government. And now all of a sudden you got your Trump wake-up call, and now all of a sudden, guess what? Now you're scared. Now you're like, oh my God, what? You should have thought about that many years ago. There's an old saying that says, never put all your eggs in one basket. And that's what they did. And she is not the only one. Anyway, let's move on. Let's play it.
21, the most recent stats from the Federal Office of Personnel Management. It shows that more than 18% of federal workers are black.
Jesus.
That's higher than the country's entire black population, which is just over 12%. Howard University political science professor Marcus Board says the high representation of black federal workers is due to the job protections that have often eluded black employees in private workplaces.
They have worker protections, federal worker protections that are guaranteed by the federal government. And so it's one of the few places where they can be sure that they're going to be supported, protected, and taken care of.
Let me stop you there. Okay, because I was a contractor for the federal government. I was a contractor for the CDC when I was living in Atlanta. I could tell you, now this is regardless if they were black, white, it doesn't even matter. The mindset, not all, but there are many that I could talk about where when he's talking about protections, what he's saying is that you can come in and pretty much do the bare minimum and, they ain't gonna really bother you. That's what he's talking about. Come on now, let's keep it a full buck. Because I know if I got some federal workers in it, you know what I'm talking about. There are many federal workers out there, they know that they could just do the bare minimum and they straight. But if you went out in the private sector, they would have kicked your behind out a long time ago. Let's be real about that. Let's be total real about that. I can't tell you how many times I have heard and I have seen with my own eyes, if the time for them to get off is at 5 o'clock, they're taking their late lunch break at 4:30 or something like that so they can scooch on out of there, or they're planning and plotting and all that stuff. When I tell you the amount of waste I saw just at the CDC, I saw scientists ordering computers that they didn't need. And the reason why they were ordering them is because they were jealous that someone else got one and they didn't. And all this other stuff that they just do, but they're unfireable. And I'm sitting up here but they, as a contractor, they got rid of our behinds real quick. But if you get a federal job, there are protections that you get. So get off of that. Get off of that. He's trying to paint this picture that black folks, if we work in the private sector, that somehow they just gonna cut you immediately because you black. No, not at all. You do the work, you do it like you're supposed to, more often than not, you're gonna have your job. In the federal space and also in the state space, there are protections there and all that stuff, but a lot of times people take advantage of it because they know, they're like, shoot, all I know, if I just sit in this chair for another 2-3 years, then my pension gonna kick in, I'm gonna be all right. I'm trying to tell you, but we won't be honest with that. He want to try to paint it like we get out there. The reason why black people went out to the federal government, because once we get out into the private sector, they just firing us left and right because they just inherently racist. No, that ain't it. There's a lot that federal workers do get away with, a whole lot. And it's stuff that would not stand in the private sector. I'm not saying the private sector is like the top-notch standard and of everything, but I am saying that when you're dealing with a budget that is tight versus a budget that's unlimited, people they will act and operate accordingly. That's how it works. You working for the federal government, money ain't no object. But if you are working for a private owned company where their budget is limited, they don't have time for the games. You can't be sitting up there and be like, well, I'm just gonna sit in this chair and I got like another 5 years and my pension they're gonna say, get your behind up out of here. You better get your behind all the way up out of here. You ain't sitting up in there. In fact, this whole office is gonna be up out of here. You know what I'm saying? So don't even say that. Anyway, let's go on. Come on.
Some workers, it sounds like this is a direct attack on black Americans and black middle class who are affiliated with the federal government. How do you see it?
I think that's an accurate read.
Of course it is.
Jobs have been a ladder up and a pathway to the middle class, to self-sufficiency and economic progress for black Americans.
Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley of Massachusetts is a member of a Democratic
there she go, flashing that sign again.
Held hearings earlier this year challenging Project 2025.
It is their pathway to enact widespread wholesale policy violence.
You're talking about deep budget cuts, hiring freezes, It's just a damning document, and I have every reason to believe that they would make good on it.
Oh my God, they're actually going to do a hiring freeze. They're actually going to cut the budget. Oh my God. That almost sounds like the private sector. How dare you bring that kind of mindset in the federal space? How dare you come up to that? Don't you know we're the privileged class? That's exactly what how they're thinking. So you're a federal worker. That's right. Your wake-up call is coming too. And I am all the way here for it. All the way.
And I have every reason to believe that they would make good on it.
How can you count on government employment being around forever?
Right.
Cooper was senior counsel to former House Majority Leader Dick Armey, and he argues that African Americans can't rely on federal jobs and that more need to shift to the private sector.
Mm-hmm.
Do not rely on government. Why? Because you can't rely on government. Is it a decade? Is it a century? At some point, it's going to be government that you're sitting there relying on that pulls the rug right out from under your feet.
There you go.
Leaving the federal workforce and the security it offers is not a plan some like Robinson even want to consider.
My good government job, my good government job. It is paid for a lot of things.
Of the more than 2 million full-time federal workers, more than 300,000 are concentrated here in the D.C. metro region. The thing to remember is that this is a living document that has been written over decades. Regardless of who gets into the White House this time, workers tell us the future stability of federal employment is what's keeping them up at night. So it could impact a lot of folks. The experts we're talking to saying disproportionately so African Americans, specifically those who work for the federal government in our region.
So good. I'm here for it. If I had an applause button, I would press it. Good. It needs to. It absolutely needs to. Absolutely. Because for you to sit up here and to actually believe that your entire middle class as a community can rest on the laurels of the government, the very government that you're always calling out being racist, it's the most insane thing I've ever heard of. You don't hear Asians talking about that. You don't hear, you have Asians working for the federal government, yes, but their entire middle class is resting on the federal government? Middle class is resting on the federal government. The Indians or whatever that's coming over, same thing. Your entire middle class, you pull the middle class out, you ain't got nothing. It's gone. Everything else is gone. So this is why I keep saying that the black community, what we know today is a black community, is nothing more than a house of cards. It is. And it's a house of cards, like it or not, that is falling apart. It is. Because we refuse to have the vision to say, you know what? We need to pull up out of this thing and we need to start focusing on really building our own stuff so that we're not caught in this situation. But it's too late. It's too late, you know? And so anyway, let's move on here. So we just had Congresswoman Ayanna Presley. She was just talking here. Now, this is them talking about the DEI bill. There's an anti-DEI bill that's out here right now. I want you to pay close attention to how she is, what she's saying and how she's kind of just going off here, okay? And this is the video right here. Let me get this up here on the screen here. Because this all ties in.
This bill, titled the Dismantling DEI Act, is an utter disgrace. Having sat and read the text in preparation for today's markup, I have yet another example to tell my constituents about the unserious work of the Republican Party. Now, I'll work with anyone serious about progress who wants to center the people who call this country home. This isn't it. The Committee on Oversight has the broadest jurisdiction in the entire House of Representatives to investigate any topic it chooses, but we are debating legislation that denies the sky is blue, water is wet, and racism is real.
Woo!
The major provision
She done
of the bill
told that now. Come on now.
says to ban anything that acknowledges racism. And a few pages later in the exact same bill, there are multiple provisions discussing the presence of racism. This Republican approach is as predictable as it is nonsensical. On one hand, they're saying that racism does not exist. On the other hand, they are saying there is rampant reverse racism. Well, how do you reverse something that never existed in the first place? Riddle me that. While this Republican policy may have a new name, it's the same old tired game. Look, y'all are entitled to your opinions, but not a denial of the facts. Do you all know your history? Do you know American history? The original Constitution counted enslaved individuals as 3/5 of a person. During World War II, the federal government forcibly relocated and incarcerated 110,000 Japanese Americans. The FHA practiced redlining in the 1930s and 60s to deny mortgages to black Americans, which is why we have a racial wealth gap today. I could go on.
Okay, so, but we're not going to go on, okay, because she's just going to continue on with that. But I want you to hold it there, and I want you to hear, this was Congresswoman Crockett. Let me get her up here, because she was going off to this week, too. And I'm going to show you how these two are, what they're doing and saying, how they're both tied together to what we were talking about earlier, as soon as I can get it up here. And this is, by the way, this is the same Congresswoman that you just saw on your screen there. She's saying to our trans siblings, you deserve joy, pride, safety, and respect. Okay, so that's her right there. And all of this smoke she's bringing is for DEI. What's DEI? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. All right. So this is Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. And she's another one that was up here going off. Okay, so let's take a listen on this, and then we're gonna have something to say on these two. All right, hold on for a sec.
Is because you can then misuse words like oppression. There has been no oppression for the white man in this country. You tell me which white men were dragged out of their homes. You tell me which one of them got dragged all the way across an ocean and told that you are going to go and work. We are going to steal your wives. We are going to rape your wives. That didn't happen. That is oppression. We didn't ask to be here. We're not the same migrants that y'all constantly come up against. We didn't run away from home. We were stolen. So yeah, we are going to sit here and be offended when you want to sit here and act like, and don't let it escape you that it is white men on this side of the aisle telling us, people of color on this side of the aisle, that y'all are the ones being oppressed, that y'all are the ones that are being harmed.
Okay, so she's done there. Okay, so now let's dive into it. So let me just tell you this. If you think, there's a lot of our people that will watch this and get so like, yes, she told them, they told us. See, that's what we need. Speaking truth to power. That's the problem. That's the problem. That's the problem, is that we speak to power, but we don't have power. You understand what I'm saying? In other words, if you really think that the Federal Reserve, they were watching these congresswomen, they were like, oh God, turn the TV on. Oh my God, them black women now, they starting to turn up. They're starting to get it now. Do you think that they're quivering in their boots because they're bringing this stuff up? Listen, the reason why you got black Congress people, the reason why you got black senators is because this system allowed you to be in that position. They're not going to put that your black behind in a position if you are going to have the power to change the system. You don't have the power to change the system. You are a figurehead for them. That's what you're there for. But too many of our people see that, and I was looking at the comments of people just like, yeah, that's right. You see, go ahead, girl. You just tell them. The banks don't care about that. Okay? The Federal Reserve don't care about that. Putin don't care about that, okay? Ukraine don't care about that. And this is the thing. They thought that, okay, we get Kamala in there, you know, she going to walk up to Putin, she going to go up to China, and she going to give them the sister girl, AKA ski wee kind of stuff or whatever. Like they going to just sit up there. No. They ain't moved by that. And what this election showed and demonstrated is that, no, we are not the center of the universe. We're not. I hate to break it to you, but we're not. The reason why you're there is because they allowed you to be there. How you going to speak truth to power and you don't even have a military? Let me say that again. How are you going to speak truth to power and you don't have a military? Why am I saying that? It's because the United States has set up the standard on how you take power. And guess what? The United States, when you look at every war that the United States was part of, they didn't go to Vietnam and say, you know what? Well, we're going to sit up here and we're going to do freedom, freedom. We shall over. No, they didn't. World War I, did they do that? We shall overcome. Did they go to Hitler and it's like, okay, we're going to sing some gospel songs and all that? No, they brought some ships. They brought some submarines. They brought some tanks. They brought some missiles. And they said, we're taking what we want to take, period. That's how we going to roll. We're setting the standard. We're going to go over here. We're going to go to Cuba. We're going to take what we want. We're going to go over here. We're going to take what we want. You don't want to sit up there singing and think your singing is going to change something. It's not. All this sassing and all that stuff, that's not doing anything. It helps you. It makes you feel like you're doing something. But in the real world, it ain't doing jack. It's not. You know what? The only two black people I can think of that's buying military bases, one is a cross-dresser and the other is a comedian. Can you imagine that? Who am I talking about? Tyler Perry. He bought that military base down in the Atlanta area. Guess what he did? He turned it into a movie studio. You know the other person that just bought a military base? Oh yeah, that's Cat Williams. Guess what he's doing? Oh, he's going to make it into a movie studio. You don't even have the mindset to think of on the level that this country was built on. You don't even have that. I'm not saying you got to be silent and don't say anything, but what I'm saying is we got to stop with the theatrics and thinking that the theatrics are changing stuff. It's not. The theatrics don't do anything. They don't. And here you got these black women who are bringing all of this smart fire and smoke for DEI. DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. How many times have I gone over this on this platform? Any black woman, there should be no black person, specifically black women, that are pushing that. You notice how she bundled in Black history. You notice how she bundled into that. Well, what's also in DEI? It's LGBTQ. That means that any man can put on a dress and say, you know what? Today I'm a black woman. So guess what? Now you're competing against a man in a dress. So now you have created another obstacle that you as a black woman are going to have to face. You're doing that to yourself. And on top of that, everything else I talked about, you're pushing abortion is not part of DEI. But my point is all these other things you're pushing, but you're actually self-sabotaging yourself in the process. And all this neck rolling and all this stuff, that may be impressive and get clicks and likes on social media, but you're actually destroying yourself in the process. And while you're being destroyed, you're being entertained by all the neck waving and all that stuff. So that's not helping. And like I said, you got all that fire and smoke for DEI. And look, in the meantime, here you got George Soros' son. Guess who he's standing next to? Oh, that was Crockett. Oh, the same woman that was up there talking about you white man this and you white man that. You see who she's standing next to? One of the most powerful white men in the world, George Soros' son. She know what time it is, y'all. You think I'm making this stuff up? She know what time it is. All that, y'all just all into the other stuff. Meanwhile, who she's sitting next to? George Soros' son. And he does this thing where he poses with all of these politicians that he just so happened to fund. He bankrolls these people. So he encourages women like this and politicians like this to go after white people, but he has an ulterior motive. And his motive is to get rid of you, but you too crazy and dumb to even recognize that. because he knows that black people in general are impressed when we see us on the stage. It's crazy. This is something else here, but it's true. So I hope you really get something out of this particular broadcast here, y'all. Listen, I can feel the winds changing, you know, when it comes to what we do and how we do on YouTube. I'm talking about myself here because, listen, I don't have time to just be sitting and talk about these problems here. You understand what I'm saying? It's once you put all this stuff together and you realize where this train is going, you need to, it should cause you to really step back and say, wait a minute. You tell me at this trajectory right now, we ain't going to be around too much longer, period. It's just what it is. It's true. And so you have to kind of have that serious conversation and talk about where do I see myself, where I see our family in the next 10, 15, 20 years. How do we preserve our legacy? You know what I mean? And that is something that has to start with your own family under your own roof. It doesn't start on social media. It's not like, okay, we need to get our own social media platform and we can start from there. That doesn't work. So just stop that because you don't own the internet. Okay? I'm talking about real conversations that our people used to do long ago, offline, and we're sitting at the kitchen table or whatever, and we're talking and we're planning stuff out. That's what you need to be doing with your family, especially now. This is the time to do it. As I mentioned earlier, you got the stock market is doing very well right now. You got cryptos doing very well right now. People are making wealth. They're generating wealth right now. I just heard today someone said that with a $3,000 investment, and this is just since Trump been elected, he started with $3,000. He turned that $3,000 into over $200 and something thousand. So people right now are generating wealth. They are. And if you have a mindset where you're still depending on the federal government going to take my job, and you're not thinking along those lines about it, investing and, you know, building your own business and kind of, you know, things like that. If you're not doing those things right now, you're going to be the first one off the cliff. So this is the time now to start thinking along those lines. You understand what I'm saying? Think about investing. Think about investing in yourself. Think about things like that. But don't just think about it. This is the time now to start taking active steps towards it and getting off of, we're talking about investing, but also your health. You don't need to be dependent on the federal government or the pharmaceutical companies. We don't need that. You don't need that. Your ancestors never needed the pharmaceuticals to do that. We act like we forget about that. Child, I can't make it through the day without my blood pressure pills. I'm gonna need my pills. You know what your ancestors used to do? They would do things like chew on garlic. Garlic has, I think it's B12 or something like that, which is great for normalizing your blood pressure. They would chew on garlic. They would do things like that. They didn't need, when the doctor said, we don't want your behind up in the office, guess what they said? Okay, well, we're going to go into the woods there and let's get our medicine. We all going to be good. You good? You good? You good? Okay, winter's coming. Okay, you know what that means. We got to take that castor oil, nasty as it is. But guess what? We're going to flush all these toxins out of our system. We knew all this stuff. And we got to get back to that. That's a big part of the solution, so to speak, with this, is that you got to make a conscious effort to start cutting away from this system. And that's why I say good. They want to go in there and they want to start axing jobs and stuff over there in the federal government. Go ahead and do it, because that's the only way a lot of people are going to learn at the end of the day. It just is. All right. So that's it. That's all I have for you. Thank you so much for tuning in, you guys. I hope you guys take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a lovely weekend, and I'll see you again soon. You guys take care now. See you now.